The year Ava was diagnosed with cancer, I had just graduated from college. My pockets were empty, and after scraping everything together, I only had $500 to my name. It wasn't nearly enough to save her. I spent days calling everyone I could think of, borrowing from friends and distant acquaintances, and managed to gather $150,000. But on my way back to the hospital, just after I secured the last of the money, I received the news that she had passed away. I never got to see Ava one last time. For the next 5 years, I moved down south by myself. I took whatever work I could find, living frugally with the single goal of paying back the massive debt I had accumulated. When I finally cleared the last of my loans, I returned to H-City. It was there, at a hot pot restaurant she used to love, that I ran into a woman who looked exactly like her. By then, she had a successful career, a happy family, and even a child. Winters in H-City are always quite cold. I was sitting alone, eating my meal, when a familiar voice cut through the low hum of the restaurant. Through a pane of glass fogged by the steam, I saw a woman with rimless glasses gently serving food to a little girl. I didn't think much of it at first, not until I saw the small mole near her eye, a detail so familiar it made my breath catch. I stood up without thinking, my chair scraping against the floor, and stared at her, my mind overwhelmed. "Ava, is that you?" Amidst the noise, it seemed she heard someone calling her name. The woman looked up, and her eyes met mine for a brief moment. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock and then to a coldness as tears began to well in her eyes. "Alex," she said, her voice steady despite the emotion. "Long time no see." I sat down awkwardly across from her and the little girl. Ava maintained her composure, casually placing pieces of meat into the simmering hot pot for the child. "Want some vinegar?" she asked, pointing to my bowl of sesame sauce. "You always liked things sour." Back when we had hot pot together, she would always mix a small bowl of vinegar and garlic for me. But over the last 5 years, I had lost my taste for many things. I just shook my head, unsure how to even begin the conversation. "So you weren't actually sick that year?" I finally managed to ask, the words fumbling out. Ava knew what I was asking. She paused her actions for a moment before giving a slight nod, as if we were discussing some trivial matter and not a lie that had reshaped my entire life. 5 years ago, I was in the distant city of J-City borrowing money. I transferred it directly into her account. On my way back to H-City, I got the sudden news of her liver failure. That night, the temperature dropped to 17 degrees below zero. I stood outside the train station in a thin coat, completely numb from the cold and the shock. I couldn't understand how, just 3 days after I had left, she couldn't hold on. Her mother, who had never approved of me, was the one who delivered the news over the phone. I pleaded, my voice hoarse, for details about her funeral, only to be hung up on. Her family had always looked down on me because I came from a poor family in the countryside. "So, why did you all lie to me?" I asked, my eyes turning red as I struggled to hold back my emotions. Ava's expression was restrained. She remained silent, the tension between us growing until the vibration of a phone cut through the stalemate. On my screen, Ava's old number, which I still had saved at the top of my contacts, lit up. She hadn't used that number in 5 years, yet I had sent messages to it day after day, turning it into a diary of sorts. Through the long years of repaying the debt, whenever things felt too tough or unbearable, I would write it all there. Ava must have seen the contact name on my screen. She let out a cold chuckle and then looked at me. "Because, Alex," she said, her voice sharp, "I can't forget, and I can't forgive you. I can't forget how you left the day I was admitted to the ICU." I froze. What does that mean? When did I ever leave? That year, after hearing of her death, I had frantically found a private car to take me back to H-City. The trains would have taken 3 days, and I couldn't wait. But an unexpected blizzard hit, so heavy that all the roads and railways were shut down. By the time I finally reached the hospital in H-City, a new flu outbreak had thrown everything into chaos. Most of the doctors and nurses had been reassigned. Not being able to see her one last time, or even attend her funeral, had left me devastated for a long, long time. It was a message from Claire, the woman I had borrowed the money from, that finally snapped me out of it. She was my rival in high school, but she was the only one who had loaned me the money. I dragged myself out of bed with only one thought: repay the debt. It was the only thing I had left to do. "Ava, I didn't run," I said, my voice cracking as tears streamed down my face. "I went to J-City to borrow money for you. Check your bank account from January of that year. That money came from me." I had almost forgotten how to cry, but seeing her face brought back the memory of our last moment together in the ICU before I left. She had touched my cheek, comforting me kindly. "Alex, I'll be okay," she'd said. "Take care of yourself. If I don't make it, forget me and start a new life." I had clung to the bedside, shaking my head, begging her not to leave me. My parents were divorced and didn't care about me. I couldn't even afford my college tuition. It was Ava's scholarships and her part-time work that had supported me. She was my lifeline. Overcome with emotion, I reached out and gripped her hand tightly, just as I had back then. I was sinking into that same pit of despair until a child's innocent voice cut through. "Uncle Mark," the little girl said, staring at me with wide eyes. "That money was from my uncle. He said he borrowed it from a friend." Her words shattered the fragile hope that had started to form in Ava's eyes. Clarity returned to her expression instantly. She pulled her hand away from mine and addressed me distantly. "Alex, please have some self-respect. Over the years, I thought maybe it was understandable for people to run when faced with a partner who is terminally ill. But I never needed money to save me, Alex. I just needed you to be there with me during my final days. You vanished the next day. Now that I'm alive, let's not disturb each other anymore, okay?" With that, she took a deep breath and settled the last piece of beef into the pot, a piece she always used to give to me. After a moment, I lowered my head, feeling a strange sense of relief, a faint smile on my face. It had been so long. It was time to start fresh. But before that, some things needed to be cleared up. I wiped my tears and smiled as I asked the little girl, "Sweetie, what's your uncle's name?" The girl seemed wary and clung to Ava's arm, but she still muttered, "Mark." I understood. Mark was Ava's adopted brother. Back in college, he was always hostile towards me. I suspected that a large part of why her mother disliked me was because of him. I had sensed that Mark had special feelings for Ava, but she only ever saw him as a brother. He took out his frustrations on me. Since the money was sent from a bank in J-City and the signer was a stranger's name, it was easy for him to lie and take the credit. "Since everyone says Mark gave you the money," I said to Ava, "can he show you a transfer record?" Hearing this, Ava's gaze darkened, and her earlier certainty wavered. "If he can't show it, can you?" she retorted. "Someone who ran off halfway? Alex, have some dignity. If you're as broke as you were back then, you can always use your act of sincerity to trick another woman into supporting you. After all, your acting fooled even me." I shakily put down my chopsticks. A laugh escaped me, but my heart felt like it was being torn apart. I had spent 5 years of my life trying to pay back a debt for someone who, in the end, saw me as nothing more than a shameless liar. "Whether I can show it or not," I said, "the past is in the past, Ava. I won't bother you anymore, but I can't stand someone using my efforts to deceive you." That day ended on a sour note. Ava left after taking a phone call, the ring on her finger shimmering under the lights. I didn't ask if she was married. I just awkwardly took off the silver ring she had bought me 8 years ago with half a year's worth of tutoring money. I had never taken it off, and its edges were now blackened with age. I finished the last meatball in my bowl, paid my bill, and left the hot pot restaurant. I had a feeling I wouldn't be coming back. After stepping out into the cold air, I took out my phone and contacted Claire. We hadn't spoken since I paid off the last of my debt a month ago. Back then, when Ava had a sudden liver and kidney failure, I had stood by a hospital window all night, calling everyone I knew. I only managed to raise $200. Desperate, I reached out to my high school rival, a rich girl named Claire. $150,000? Sure, she had said. But you need to come to J City to get it. We had a huge fight in high school once. I had given her a scar on her forehead, and I almost got expelled. But I was desperate and had nothing to lose. When I arrived at the private room she had specified in J City, she was surrounded by people. "You can borrow the money," she said with a sneer, "but you have to kneel for me." She wanted to crush my pride completely. I had no other choice, so I knelt on the floor amidst the mocking laughter of her friends. I don't really remember the feeling of my knees hitting the cold floor, only that she eventually called everyone off, looking bored. She flicked a cigarette near my feet. "Is it worth it for a woman?" she asked. "It's worth it," I said without hesitation. Now my answer would be different. She clicked her tongue, made a phone call, and got my account information. "The money will be sent today," she'd said. "I'll pay it back," I had promised, my hands shaking. Now I sent her a message. "Claire, do you still have the transfer record from 5 years ago?" About 30 minutes later, she replied, "I have it. What's up?" "I need it," I typed back. I hesitated for a moment before telling her the truth. Ava didn't die, and someone took credit for the money I gave her. I need the evidence. She was quiet for a moment. "So many scumbags," she finally wrote. "I'm in H City right now. I'll check and let you know. Come find me." The next afternoon, she arranged to meet at the most expensive restaurant in H City. When I arrived, a business dinner was in full swing. Claire sat at the center of a large round table, confidently raising her glass. "We're planning to open an investment company in H City," she announced. "I'll be here for a long time, so please take care of us." I stood at the door, watching her, a strange sense of envy welling up inside me. Once her guests had left, I went inside. Amidst the leftover food, she glanced up at me and pulled a receipt from her pocket. The date showed a $150,000 transfer into Ava's bank account 5 years ago. "I'll have my assistant send you the electronic version later," she said. "Thanks," I said, taking the receipt and turning to leave. "Wait," Claire's firm voice stopped me. "You're just going to leave like that, without showing some gratitude?" "How do you want me to do that?" I asked calmly. She thought for a moment. "How about this? Join my new investment company. We need people." I was stunned. "Claire, you've got the wrong person. I don't have any experience." "I remember someone who was top of their class in finance," she said, raising an eyebrow. My heart sank. In college, with Ava's support, I had excelled, planning to go to graduate school and work in investment banking. But her illness and death had shattered those plans. I couldn't afford grad school, and without a master's degree, couldn't get a decent job in finance. I ended up in e-commerce, a path that led me far from my original dreams. "I just don't get it, Claire. Why are you helping me?" "You've got it wrong," she said matter-of-factly. "I'm not helping you. You'll work for me. It's just business. Your effort, my money." I knew she could hire someone more qualified. I didn't want to get too involved with her. I was grateful for her help, but I couldn't forget the humiliation of kneeling before her. "I don't need this," I said, clutching the receipt. "I can survive." "Alex," she said, her voice suddenly sharp with anger. "How long are you going to hold on to your worthless pride? Look at yourself. Do you really think you have a chance to turn your life around?" Her words hit me hard. Turn my life around felt like a distant, unfamiliar dream. "What do you know about struggle from your sheltered life?" I snapped back, my own frustrations boiling over. "My life is a mess. I'm almost 30 and I'm broke. Every step I've taken for the past 5 years feels pathetic. I drank until I got stomach ulcers just to make sales. I was blackmailed by my boss. I go home to a tiny rented room and eat discounted meals. Is that what you call a life?" Claire stood there, shocked. After a moment, her expression softened, but a hint of condescension remained. "Fine, Alex. If you want to degrade yourself, I won't stop you." She turned away, a mocking smile on her face as she brushed her hair aside, revealing the faint scar on her forehead from our fight all those years ago. The scar seemed to mock me now, a reminder of a time when I was reckless and fearless. What am I so afraid of? I thought. Can things really get any worse? The answer was no. With clenched fists, I finally turned back to her. "I'll do it, Claire. I want to turn things around." Claire had high expectations. She wanted me to refresh my knowledge, understand the current market, and study case studies. During my initial internship period, I'd only make the same as a new graduate. Climbing higher was up to me. One night while I was studying late, my phone vibrated twice. It was Ava's old number. At 4 a.m, someone had sent a message and then quickly retracted it. Curious, I wondered why she was using that account again. It was convenient timing, as I was still figuring out how to contact her. I sent the electronic receipt to her number, but no reply came. The next morning I sent another message. "Can we meet tomorrow around noon if it's convenient?" This time, an instant sure came back. She chose a fancy downtown restaurant. I was nearly late coming from work. A man in a tuxedo was playing the piano. I saw Ava by the window, but she wasn't alone. A man in a gray suit sat with her. It was Mark. I took a deep breath and sat down across from them. I had thought sending the proof would clear everything up. I didn't expect this continued animosity. "Ava," I said, placing my phone on the table, "I told you I had proof. You've seen it, right?" Before she could answer, a young server approached to pour tea. He stumbled, knocking my phone into a small, decorative trough of water beside the table. I quickly fished it out, but it was soaked and wouldn't turn on. "I'm so sorry," the server stammered. I just shook my head, frustrated. After the mishap, I ignored their expressions and pulled the paper receipt from my pocket, handing it to Ava. "Here. This is the transfer slip from J-City Bank. You can verify it." Ava looked down at it, her expression unreadable. Mark, however, glanced at it and smirked. "Alex, are you still pulling the same tricks? Why is your receipt identical to mine? Who did you have steal it from me?" "Identical?" I was confused. This receipt came from Claire. Suddenly, Mark grinned and showed me his phone. On the screen was an electronic receipt, a perfect copy of mine. I understood then. It wasn't Ava who had messaged me that night. It was Mark. He had seen my electronic receipt before she did, deleted it, and then created this new lie. "Anything else to say, Alex?" Ava said, her eyes filled with disappointment and anger. I lowered my gaze and chuckled softly. After all these years, Mark was still a pain. "Ava," I said, "did you log into that old account recently?" She frowned but nodded. She had probably seen the thousands of messages I'd sent, detailing all my hardships. "Can you show me the interface?" She complied, confused. On her phone, the electronic receipt was indeed gone. Just as I remembered my phone was dead, I sighed. Mark had planned this well. probably even telling the waiter to knock my phone into the water. Originally, I had just come to prove I hadn't run away. Ava had helped me for 4 years of college, and I felt I owed her the truth. But seeing Mark's smug face filled me with a bitter anger. "Ava, are you two married?" I asked, looking at their matching rings. She remained silent, but Mark blushed and said, "Not yet, but we're engaged." I smirked. Ava used to tell me she couldn't imagine marrying anyone but me. "All right, Ava, one last question," I said, my voice hoarse. "Are you with him because he gave you that $150,000? She crossed her hands, looking at me coldly. She wore an expensive watch, the kind we used to dream about. "Yes, Alex. Mark saved my life. I would die for him, let alone marry him." Hearing that, I finally surrendered. I pulled a bank card from my pocket. It was the card used for the transfer. "Ava, Mark claims the money came from a friend. So why do I have this card?" Her expression changed drastically as she recognized the card number matching the receipt. It was undeniable proof. Mark jumped up, trying to snatch the card. "Alex, give it to me." I quickly pocketed it. "No need to snatch it, Mark. No matter how you lie, it's useless. I have the receipt, the card, and even the person who made the transfer. Stop pretending. It's disgusting." "Ava, he stole it from me," Mark pleaded, grabbing her hand. "My friend gave me the card, but I misplaced it." Ava's eyes were filled with turmoil. "Mark," she said, her voice shaking with anger, "do you still think I'm a fool? If you had proof, you would have shown it to me 5 years ago. I trusted you. I trusted Mom. I can't believe you both lied to me." Tears flowed down her cheeks. She reached out a trembling hand towards me, but I stepped back. "Alex, when I woke up, Mom and Mark told me you ran away," she sobbed. "I waited for you for 3 days in the ICU, but you never came. I believed them. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't choose to believe you. Those messages. I read them all. I've never stopped thinking about you." She stood before me, trying to explain, but I felt nothing but cold distance. "Ava, you couldn't wait 3 days. I spent 5 years paying back that money. Isn't that ironic? You're engaged now. You shouldn't be saying these things. I hope we don't meet again." I grabbed my bag and left. Claire had mentioned an important meeting at 2 o'clock, and I couldn't miss it. I had preemptively borrowed the card from Claire, feeling that the receipt might not be enough. It turned out to be the right call. The lunch meeting had shaken me, and I was distracted for the first part of the afternoon meeting. Claire shot me disapproving looks. I pulled myself together and focused, promising her it wouldn't happen again. I needed this job. After work, I went to the phone shop. To my surprise, the phone booted up normally. A message popped up. A transfer notification from Ava for $1.5 million. My heart sank. Another long message followed, filled with apologies and a desire to make amends. I didn't read it closely. The wind was cold, so I wrapped my scarf tighter and went to my usual noodle shop. "Hey, Alex," the owner greeted me. "The usual?" "Yes," I said, "but let's add a chicken leg today." The project collaboration in J City started later that month. It was my first real hands-on experience, and I often worked late. One night, my coworker Lewis sighed. "Alex, did you hear? We're getting a new department head tomorrow, parachuted in. I hear she's young but has a reputation for being really harsh." "Doesn't matter," I replied. "Our days aren't that great now anyway." But the next day, when I saw the new leader, I knew things were about to get much more complicated. It was Ava. She stood in front of the room, introducing herself. Her eyes inevitably landed on me. I gave her a blank stare, and she awkwardly looked away. At the end of the meeting, she suggested a team dinner. "I hope everyone can make it," she said, glancing cautiously in my direction. I raised my hand. Sorry, I have something tonight. My dog is sick, I lied. Just then, Claire appeared behind me. Which pet hospital, Alex? I'll have my assistant go with you. Don't spoil Ava's first day. She placed a firm hand on my shoulder. I'm free. I'll come along too. I was trapped. The whole dinner was tasteless. Later in the parking garage, a man was waiting by the entrance. It was Mark. He strode towards me, his hand raised to strike, but Claire moved swiftly, grabbing his arm. Who are you? She demanded. This is my brother, Ava explained as she approached. Brother? Mark spun around, shocked. Ava, I'm your fiancé. We have Lily. We're engaged. He waved his hand, showing off his ring. I glanced at Ava's hand. The engagement ring was gone, replaced by a plain silver one, the one I had thrown away weeks ago. Mark, I've told you many times. Lily was an accident, Ava said, her voice strained. I was too drunk to remember anything, and the next day you were in my bed. But you're Lily's mother, he pleaded. We should be a family. Don't forget, Ava sneered, that you and Mom lied to me about Alex. If you guys are going to keep talking about personal stuff, Alex and I are leaving, Claire cut in, leaning against a wall. She looked at me. You coming? I nodded and followed her, leaving the drama behind. In her car, parked by the river, she asked, Are you mad at me? Yeah, I admitted. You knew about us, and you still made me go to that dinner. She chuckled softly. Alex, do you really think someone gets so drunk they have a one-night stand by accident? That's just stuff from TV dramas. I frowned. You're saying she's lying? Is that the only possibility? She countered. I fell silent. Could the child not be Ava's? The idea seemed crazy, but then a memory surfaced. 5 years ago, I saw Ava's mother, Helen, talking with Mark outside the hospital. It seemed ordinary at the time, but now a disturbing thought emerged. Claire seemed to have guessed it too. She extinguished her cigarette. Alex, you should have your answer by now. She pulled out a few photos from her purse. They were of Mark and Helen, entering a hotel together. Mark was adopted, she said quietly. They might have been involved for some time. That's all I can tell you. What you do with this is up to you. But if you want, I can help. I steadied my voice. Claire, why are you doing all this for me? She just started the car, a faint smirk on her lips. You once helped me. Just returning the favor. Besides, who are they to bully you? Later, Mark added me on social media, flaunting pictures of himself with Ava. He had gained some online fame as a father-daughter duo with Lily. After some thought, I contacted a rival blogger and sold her the photos Claire had given me. The next day, the internet exploded. The initial rumors were about Mark's affair, but soon it was revealed that he and Ava were adopted siblings, and the affair was with her mother, Helen. The scandal grew. In the midst of the chaos, Leo issued a statement claiming the child was Ava's, not Helen's. The public didn't buy it. His account was flooded with insults. Then, things escalated again when his account was reported and banned. The blogger I sold the photos to sent me another $10,000 as a thank you. I didn't refuse. That night I got a call from Ava. Her voice was hoarse and she sounded drunk. Alex, do you hate me? She slurred. Do you hate that I didn't believe you? Before I could answer, she said, Alex, I'll make things right. And then hung up. The next day, she posted 2 paternity tests online, one between Lily and herself, and one between Lily and Helen. The results proved Lily was Helen's daughter. The truth smashed Mark's claims to pieces. At that moment, I used a burner account to contact Mark. He was desperate. I told him his only way out was to gather evidence and report Helen for illegal assault, framing himself as a victim. He agreed. A few days later, Mark posted records of reporting Helen to the police, along with years of chat logs and evidence. It turned out Helen had been preying on him since he was a teenager. The public reaction was mixed. Many didn't believe him after his previous lies. Soon after, Helen and her husband, Richard, were taken in for investigation. Helen was charged with assault, and Richard was investigated for child trafficking. It turned out the three of them had planned to keep the $150,000 from the beginning, faking Ava's death to ensure I wouldn't come looking for the money. Helen and Richard were both sentenced to life in prison. Mark, after the stress of the scandal, had a mental breakdown, and Ava, she quit her job and left H-City with Lily. No one knew where she went. Before she left, she sent me one last message. I was at a night market with colleagues when I read it. Alex, I hope in the next life I meet you with a healthy body, and I hope you'll hold my hand and smile, just like 10 years ago. I love you. I turned off my phone, a complicated feeling settling in my chest. Winters in H-City are freezing, but for the first time in a long time, I just wanted to live my life well. On New Year's Eve, our company celebrated the successful completion of the J-City project. Claire rented out an entire floor for a party. I don't usually drink much, but that night I was happy. I drank until I couldn't handle anymore, laughing with colleagues until my nose stung. Staring at the bubbles in my glass, I remembered being in that hot pot restaurant just a few months ago, with almost no money to my name. I never could have imagined my life would turn around so quickly. Later, I stumbled out of the restaurant, and someone caught me from behind. It was Claire. "I'll call a driver for you," she offered. "Nah, I can get a cab," I insisted, and promptly tripped over a rock. Claire steadied me, but her wallet fell from her pocket, scattering its contents. Among the cards, a slightly worn photo caught my eye. I bent down and picked it up. It was a photo of the back of a boy in a school uniform. From the light brown hair, I realized it was me. I looked up at Claire, grinning. "You sure hold a grudge, Claire. Was our high school fight such a big deal that you kept my photo all this time?" Her expression turned complicated. Watching my drunken state, she just laughed and called me a fool. Claire's perspective. I was 16 when my parents' divorce was at its worst. My mother took me from J-City to her hometown, H-City, for high school. The damp sea air was as irritating as my new classmates, who only talked about games and celebrities. None of them could match my grades, except for one person, Alex. He was an awkward boy who was always getting into fights when other kids made fun of his worn-out shoes or faded clothes. One day I asked my deskmate what his story was. "Oh, Alex?" she sneered. "He's a famous troublemaker. His parents left him with his grandma in 3rd grade. She's the one who cleans the school's toilets." Hearing that, something in my heart shifted. I looked at him, at his reddened eyes and his light brown hair, a sign of poor nutrition. How could someone who ate so poorly still achieve grades so close to mine? After that day, I started secretly leaving meat buns and milk in his desk drawer. Competition should be fair, after all. When he found the first bun, he hesitated, then devoured it in a single bite. Watching him eat while pretending to read during morning recitals always made me smile. As he ate better, his grades improved even more, and his brown hair returned to a healthy black. He seemed more confident. It was nice, like watching a stray cat you've been feeding grow strong. Senior year, I noticed our teacher giving me spots in academic competitions that should have been his. It made me uneasy. One afternoon, the tension between us finally erupted into a physical fight. He was stronger, and in the scuffle, my head hit the corner of a desk. My mom wanted to get him expelled, but I begged her not to. He lost his chance at special admission to a top university, but I knew he'd get in on his own. And he did, scoring first in the school. Then I found out he and Ava were together, I was planning to apply to the same university as him, but that news changed everything. We had never really talked much anyway. I decided to go to a university in J-City for a fresh start. Years passed. I built a career, got away from my mother's control, and almost forgot about my old rival. But sometimes, when I was drunk, I'd remember his defiant face. I'd quietly check up on him through social media, watching him deal with life's struggles. Then one night he reached out, asking to borrow $150,000 for Ava. I told him to come to J-City. When he arrived, looking so rough and desperate, a strange jealousy sparked in me. In a foolish moment, I demanded that he kneel. I regretted it the instant the words left my mouth. I gave him the money and asked if it was worth it for a woman. He nodded without a second's hesitation. That night, I knew I had to let go of my feelings. When I heard Ava had passed away, I felt nothing but a sense of unfairness for him. I threw myself into my work. 5 years later, he paid off the debt and returned to H-City, just as I was opening a new branch of my company there. He contacted me for the transfer receipt. When I learned the truth, that Ava was alive and his kindness had been stolen, my mind raced. Revenge or letting go was his choice, but I knew I had to offer him a real chance. I gave him a job. He took the opportunity and thrived, using every resource I gave him to revitalize the company and his own life. He proved my decision was the right one. And now, tonight, he sat beside me, no longer just a ghost from my past, but a success story. He held up that old photo and asked if I had fallen for him. I just teased him, but he looked at me with a new determination. Not love, he said, but admiration and gratitude. Thank you, Claire. I believe my life can turn around again because it already has. Remembering my own mother, I've always cherished the idea of helping someone see a bigger world. Because of him, I was willing to chart a new path, to give him a space where he could flourish, and in doing so, bring hope not just to him, but to myself as well.